Framed, Section 15. 30th of May. Cars today, Subaru Impreza, 2 random lads, filled up, bought a map. Morgan +8, a rude stranger. Weather, extremely heavy rain. Note, a fearful moment. This is when man had finally got a sign on the A496. Okay, so it wasn't like millions of cars came, but the main thing is, from a market research point of view, neither of these cars comes from Manad. They're both strangers. As Dad says, there's no such thing as strangers, there's only customers you haven't met yet. Actually, the man in the Morgan probably won't come again, and we don't want him to. On the good side though, he wouldn't have found us if it hadn't been for the new sign, so that shows that the sign works. It wasn't the council who put the new sign up, by the way, it was us. Minnie got the idea from the baby chucking picture. We all woke up late the day after we did the oil change, and Mam made a legend breakfast. Porridge, sausages, everything. Immense. Including eggs laid by Donatello. She laid every day, but Michelangelo still hadn't laid a single one. Mr. Lester paid cash, she said, so this is a celebration breakfast. That's when we realised that if he paid, he must have been and gone. We all rushed to the window. We couldn't see the BMW slipping off into the clouds. He'd gone, but he'd left the picture. Looks like you made a good job of those tyres, Marie, said Mam. Marie said, yeah, you should go to Quick Fit or somewhere to check the tracking, but it should be alright. But her brain was thinking, oh my God, he left the Holy Grail behind. Well, said Minnie, I'll suck a mint imperial. Why, said Mam. No reason. We didn't want to get Mam involved. On the way to school, Minnie said, he's bound to come looking for it once he notices it's missing. And when he does, we'll give it back. And if he doesn't, then it's finders keepers. This sounds okay in theory. In practice, it meant that she brought about 10 million girls, including even Terrible Evans, back with her after school, and they all swarmed upstairs to look at the picture. They all sat there on the bed staring at the picture like it was a PlayStation. Jade Porty said, is it a girl or a man? It's a man, obviously, said Minnie. But he's plucked his eyebrows. He's a man, but he's plucked his eyebrows. They did it in those days. He's done something funny to his hair too. It looks like it's been welded. He's got lovely hands though, hasn't he? Said Terrible. Yeah, said Jade. Girl hands. Then there was a sound like a helicopter, which was Marie's school bus pulling up, and another 10 million girls got off that, and they went upstairs too. All the girls who normally got off in Leckwed or in Manor Town, they'd all come to see the picture. Marie's friends were more interested in the women. The red-headed girl from Mr. Chips, and, who invited her by the way, wanted to know why they all had such big heads. Minnie explained that they didn't have big heads as such. Women used to shave their foreheads in those days. A high forehead was a sign of beauty. Terrible said, when were those days anyway? The days when men plucked their eyebrows and women shaved their heads. Then Mam came up to see what was going on. What's going on? She said, like she was just about to throw them all out. Then she saw the picture and she went, oh, look at that cloth. What is it? Damask? Doesn't it hang lovely then? Terrible Evans said, Mrs. Hughes, don't they look good? They've got their heads shaved, like me. Mam walked up to the picture to get a better look, and as she went by, she passed me the baby. Didn't even look, passed into me sideways like a rugby ball, like the Madonna in the picture, chucking babies around. I took Max downstairs. Tom had already gone home. It was just me and Max, the boys. I sat him down and rolled his ball at him. He went to kick it at first, but then he grabbed it and hugged it, like he'd just saved a penalty. I said, good boy, again, give me the ball and let's do it again. But he seemed to prefer to just hold it. Then I realised I could hear someone banging on the door of the shop. I looked out. It was Lester. Obviously he realised about the picture. I ran upstairs. Marie ran down to let Lester into the kitchen while I put the picture back in its box. The box was under the bed. The bubble wrap was still in there. All we had to do was fasten the catches in the right order and make sure it was all the right way around. Easy. After all, we'd just done an oil change and fitted a whole new set of tyres. I did the catches and Minnie slid the lid back into place. We were like clockwork. Mam said, have I been missing something here? Where did you learn to do that? Marie told the other girls to wait 5 minutes before coming down so that we could get rid of him. It might look a bit weird if there were 2 million girls in the same room as his painting. Down in the kitchen, Marie was telling Lester how we'd found the box when we were looking for the car jack, and we decided that it was a risk leaving it in there, what with the oil and so on. so now it was in the house for safekeeping. How's the tyres then? The tyres are fine, but the picture is here? You sure? Oh yeah, you've got the picture, haven't you, Dylan? What about the oil? I wasn't sure if you had a brand preference. But Lester wasn't thinking about the oil. He just grabbed the picture off me and hugged it like Max had hugged the ball. He just stood there for a minute, enjoying breathing. Maybe he hadn't been breathing properly for a while. He said, I'm so sorry, I should never have left it in the car. Of course. I should never have been in the car even, but you acted with the usual good sense and kindness. He smiled. I'm so grateful. Perhaps you'd like to look at it. It's the least I can do. And he started to undo the box, only he wasn't that good at it. He couldn't find the little groove under the lid. I got a bread knife and did it for him. He lifted the little gold book out of the box and opened it on the table. It's a diptych, he said, a sort of tiny portable altar. It was made for Richard II. Then he stopped. Terrible Evans had just come in from upstairs, and Jay Porty. They smiled at him and stood behind our Marie, looking at the picture. He carried on. It's all gold leaf. We know who everyone is in the picture because everyone has their emblem, a sort of logo. For instance, the king holding the arrow is Edmund, who was killed by Danish archers. The king holding the ring is Edward the Confessor, who is supposed to have given his wedding ring to a beggar, and he stopped again. Two of Marie's mates had come in now, and also the red-haired girl from Mr. Chips and Man with Max. They all smiled at him. He smiled back and carried on. So you see, it's less like a painting and more like a puzzle. Or a code, said Minnie, looking at me. Or a code indeed, said Lester. Then he stopped. The rest of Marie's mates had come in now. The ones at the back were standing on chairs. This is turning into quite the public lecture. Where were we? Well, King Richard is wearing a white deer. That's his emblem, and the angels are wearing it in his honour. It's on the back of the frame as well. Look. And he went to close it, and then stopped again. About another 100 females had come in. They all smiled. He smiled back, but looked at me. I smiled too. Well, perhaps I'd better... He was going to put the picture back in the box, but all these millions of girls did a big disappointed. Oh! They sounded like the cop after a missed penalty. He was too scared to stop then. He said, well, what else can I tell you? Oh yes, the little pommel at the top of the banner here. It looks like a simple silver orb, but if you look closely you can see it contains another picture of a castle on an island. Can you see? We only discovered that quite recently when the picture was cleaned. A hidden masterpiece. That could be an emblem of Manad, of course. Something that looks quite small and insignificant, but which hides something wonderful, namely these paintings. He was at it again, small and insignificant. He can change his own tyres next time. So there we have it, the Wilton diptych, painted towards the end of the 14th century, artist unknown. Good night. He grabbed the painting, snapped it shut, and shot out the door before he could say 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. And this was a fateful moment, because in his hurry, Lester had forgotten the wooden box that the picture came in, and without the box, we'd never have been able to do our great art robbery. Anyway, the point is, in school the next day, all the girls, which is everyone, were on about emblems, and during art, Minnie said, why didn't Manad have an emblem? And Miss Standard said we should design one. And so they all spent ages painting clouds and sheep and mountains and stuff. And Miss Standard was really cheered because, you know what, for once all the paints got used, except the grey, the yellow ochre, the crimson lake, the Prussian blue, and the 40 shades of green. Only the grey was left untouched. All I could think of was a picture of me in the newspaper, on my own, on the forecourt with the ball. When Miss Standard saw it, she said, football, football, football. What's football got to do with Manad? I said, absolutely nothing, miss, which is definitely true. Now, girls, said Miss Stannard, and Dylan, let's think about a motto to go with our pictures. When you drive into Blair now, for instance, there's a sign which says, what? It says, moving forward into the future, said Minnie. Like there's a town somewhere that's drifting backwards into the past. Exactly. We can do better than that. At Harlech they have Harlech, a town to live in. As though there are some towns you're not allowed to live in. Who can think of a slogan for Manad? I thought of no ball games, like it says on the bus shelter. It was Minnie, obviously, who thought of Manad, somewhere under the rainbow, with a picture of a mountain with a rainbow on top. Everyone loved it so much they decided to make it into a proper sign on a big piece of wood and with proper paint. And when it was finished, they loved it even more. So Miss Stanner got someone from the parish council, Mr. Elsie the chemist, to come and look at it, and he said it was very impressive, but not a funding priority. And Miss Stannard said we didn't need funds. The next morning we all got the bus up to the junction with the A496, found the old signpost on the grass verge, fixed the new sign to it with "Better Than Nails" and a piece of 4x2, put it back in its hole and filled it in with bricks. Manad Elementary did some teamwork of its own. The sign obviously worked because we had two cars from out of town the very next day. One was the man in the Morgan. He stopped on the forecourt and looked at the gate and said, "Is that it?" I said, "Is what it?" There was a sign back there pointing down here, and now the road stopped. What was that sign for? The sign's for Manad. This is Manad. Well, that's useful, isn't it? A sign inviting you into a dead end. I'm out for an afternoon motoring in the mountains. I was just getting ready to let rip. I said, "You want Blaynell bypass then? You can let rip there, all the way to Harlock." And he did. Then these two lads came in an Impreza, filled up and went to the mountain road to do a bit of off-roading. The one on the passenger side said, "You're the kid in the paper, aren't you? The last boy in Manad?" And that's me. You might not like it now, but you'll love it when you're older. You'll be the busiest lad in Manad then. Eh? I don't know. They were gone. This is what newspaper Arthur wrote about the sign, by the way. Signs of life. A new sign has appeared on the verge of the A496 near Blaynell, pointing to the Manad turn-off. The turn-off has been unmarked for several years. Those wanting to go to Manad will now find it easier to get there, though they may have difficulty occupying themselves after arrival. So, Manad finally had a sign, which is what Dad always wanted, and it was all down to Minnie. At night time, if you look out of her bedroom window, you can just about see a scarf of yellow light out past the town. That's the A496. I said to her, "Imagine that. When he comes home and he sees that sign, he'll be so impressed and everything, and he won't even know it's by you." Legend.